You checked your phone before clicking this video, and if we're being honest, you'll probably check it again before this video ends. Not because you absolutely need to, and not because there's an emergency, but because something inside your brain keeps pulling you back toward that screen. A vibration, a notification, a quick glance, a swipe, and suddenly, what was supposed to be just 1 second turns into 20 minutes of scrolling through videos, messages, posts, and updates you probably won't even remember tomorrow. But here's the strange part. Most people don't even realize they're doing it anymore. Checking your phone has become automatic, like breathing, like blinking, like an unconscious reflex. And that raises an important question. Why? Why do millions of people feel the urge to check their phones constantly, even when there's nothing important waiting for them? Why do we unlock our phones while watching movies, eating dinner, studying, working, walking, and sometimes even while talking to other people face to face? And why does putting the phone away for even a short time make some people feel anxious, restless, or uncomfortable? The answer lies deep inside human psychology, because your phone isn't just a device anymore. It's one of the most powerful behavioral conditioning machines ever created. And whether we realize it or not, modern technology has fundamentally changed the way our brains seek attention, reward, and stimulation. Researchers have found that many people check or unlock their phones more than 100 times a day. Think about that for a moment. That means some people interrupt their lives every 10 minutes, or less, just to look at a screen. What's even more shocking is that most of these checks are not triggered by notifications. People pick up their phones voluntarily, without alerts, without messages, without any real reason at all. Sometimes they unlock the phone, stare at the screen for a few seconds, and lock it again, almost automatically, almost unconsciously. And this is where things become fascinating. Because what we call phone addiction isn't really about the phone itself. It's about what the phone does to the brain. More specifically, it's about reward. Back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, psychologists began studying how behavior works. One of the earliest discoveries came from psychologist Edward Thorndike, who proposed something called the law of effect. The idea was simple. Behaviors followed by rewarding outcomes tend to repeat themselves. If an action feels good, useful, or satisfying, the brain remembers it and encourages you to do it again. Later, psychologist B.F. Skinner expanded on this idea with experiments involving rats pressing levers for food rewards, and what he discovered changed psychology forever. At first, the rats received food every time they pressed the lever. As expected, they kept pressing it. But then researchers changed the pattern. Instead of rewarding the rats every time, the reward appeared randomly. Sometimes they got food, sometimes they didn't. And strangely enough, this unpredictable reward system made the rats press the lever even more obsessively. Why? Because uncertainty creates anticipation. The brain becomes addicted to possibility. And this exact same principle now exists inside your phone. Every time you refresh your social media feed, open your messages, or check notifications, your brain wonders, maybe something exciting happened. Maybe someone texted me. Maybe my post got liked. Maybe there's breaking news. Maybe there's something entertaining waiting for me. Most of the time there isn't, but occasionally there is. And that unpredictability is what keeps the cycle alive. Your brain keeps chasing the possibility of reward. This is why social media platforms feel so difficult to resist. They operate exactly like slot machines. You pull to refresh, you wait, and sometimes you get rewarded. A funny video, a message, a notification, a compliment, a viral post, a surge of social validation. And every once in a while, your brain receives a tiny emotional payoff. That tiny payoff releases dopamine. Now, dopamine is often misunderstood. People call it the pleasure chemical, but dopamine is actually more connected to motivation and anticipation than pleasure itself. Dopamine is what drives you to seek, to check, to look again. It's the chemical behind wanting, and modern apps are designed to trigger it constantly. Every notification, every like, every message creates another small wave of anticipation in the brain. Over time, your brain starts associating your phone with potential rewards. Not guaranteed rewards, potential rewards. And strangely, unpredictable rewards are far more powerful than predictable ones. If social media were boring every single time, nobody would care about it. But because there's always a chance that the next scroll might reveal something interesting, your brain keeps going back. Again and again and again. But there's another layer to this story. Because sometimes we don't check our phones for entertainment. Sometimes we check them to escape discomfort. Think about how often people reach for their phones during silence, in elevators, at restaurants, while waiting in line, during awkward conversations, at traffic lights, even while watching TV. The phone has become an emotional escape tool, a way to avoid boredom, a way to avoid loneliness, a way to avoid stillness. Psychologists believe many people use their phones not because they're seeking pleasure, but because they're trying to reduce anxiety. That's a very important difference. Sometimes checking your phone doesn't make you happy. It simply makes you feel relieved. Relieved that you didn't miss anything. Relieved that you're still connected. Relieved that the world hasn't moved on without you. This is where fear of missing out, FOMO, becomes incredibly powerful. Human beings are social creatures. For thousands of years, survival depended on social belonging. Being excluded from the tribe once meant danger. And even though the modern world is different, our brains still respond emotionally to social inclusion and exclusion. That's why notifications feel important. That's why likes feel validating. That's why being ignored online can sometimes feel strangely painful. Social media platforms understand this deeply. Their entire business model depends on capturing and keeping your attention for as long as possible, because your attention is profitable. The longer you stay scrolling, the more advertisements you see. The more data gets collected. The more money gets generated. And that's why apps are engineered to feel endless. Infinite scrolling, autoplay videos, notifications, read receipts, streak systems, recommendation algorithms. Everything carefully designed to reduce the chances of you leaving. Former tech insiders have openly admitted this. Many social media systems are intentionally built around psychological vulnerabilities. Not because companies are evil villains sitting in dark rooms plotting against humanity, but because attention has become the most valuable currency in the digital age. And companies compete aggressively for it. But what does all this constant checking actually do to the human brain? The effects are becoming increasingly visible. One major problem is attention fragmentation. Every time you glance at your phone, your brain switches contexts. Even tiny interruptions damage concentration. Studies show that after an interruption, it can take several minutes for the brain to fully refocus on the original task. Now imagine that happening dozens or even hundreds of times per day. Your attention becomes shattered into fragments. You're never fully focused, never fully present, never fully immersed. And over time, this constant switching creates mental exhaustion. That's why many people feel strangely tired despite not doing physically demanding work. Their brains are overloaded by endless streams of information and interruptions. There's also growing concern about memory. When information is constantly available through devices, the brain becomes less motivated to retain it internally. Why remember something when your phone can remember it for you? As a result, many people feel mentally foggy, distracted, or unable to concentrate for long periods. And perhaps the most dangerous effect is the slow erosion of boredom. That might sound strange because boredom seems unpleasant, but boredom plays an important role in human creativity and reflection. Historically, some of humanity's greatest ideas emerged during moments of silence, stillness, and uninterrupted thought. Today, those moments are disappearing. The second boredom appears, people immediately reach for stimulation. A phone, a video, or a notification, a distraction. And because of that, the brain rarely gets the chance to simply wander and think deeply anymore. But maybe the most unsettling part of all this is how invisible the habit has become. Researchers studying smartphone behavior discovered that many participants had absolutely no idea how often they checked their phones until they saw recordings of themselves doing it. People would instinctively pick up their phones between tasks, during pauses, or during moments of stress without consciously deciding to do so. The habit had become automatic, conditioned. And that's important to understand, because if a behavior becomes unconscious, it becomes much harder to control. You can't easily stop something you barely notice yourself doing. So how do you regain control? The first step is awareness. Not guilt, not shame. Awareness. You don't need to completely abandon technology or throw your phone away. Smartphones are incredibly useful tools. They help us communicate, learn, work, navigate, create, and connect. The problem begins when the tool starts controlling the user, and the key to breaking compulsive habits is interrupting the automatic loop. One of the simplest but most effective strategies is creating friction. Make checking your phone slightly harder. Turn off unnecessary notifications. Keep your phone out of reach while working. Don't sleep with it next to your bed. Remove apps that consume your attention without adding real value. Even small changes can significantly reduce compulsive checking behavior. Another powerful strategy is learning to pause before unlocking your phone. Just 1 second of awareness can change everything. Before you check it, ask yourself, why am I picking this up right now? Am I bored, stressed, avoiding something, looking for stimulation? Or do I actually need it? That small moment of reflection helps move behavior from unconscious to conscious, and conscious behavior is easier to control. Some people also benefit from digital detoxes. Short periods away from social media or unnecessary apps can create psychological distance and help reset compulsive patterns. At first, this often feels uncomfortable. People report anxiety, restlessness, or the urge to constantly reach for their phones. But over time, something interesting happens. The mind begins to slow down. Focus improves, conversations feel more present, and many people rediscover something they hadn't experienced in years: mental quiet. Because beneath all the notifications, scrolling, and stimulation, the human brain still craves peace, stillness, presence, real attention. And maybe that's the deeper issue behind our relationship with phones. It's not just about technology, it's about what kind of lives we want to live. Do we want to spend our days constantly distracted, constantly reacting, constantly stimulated? Or do we want moments of depth, focus, and genuine connection? Because attention shapes reality. Whatever consistently captures your attention eventually shapes your thoughts, emotions, habits, and identity. And in today's world, countless companies are competing aggressively to control that attention, which means protecting your focus is no longer just a productivity skill. It's an act of self-defense. The truth is, your phone is not inherently bad. Technology itself is not the enemy. But technology designed to constantly hijack human psychology can quietly reshape behavior without us noticing. And perhaps the biggest danger isn't that phones distract us. It's that distraction has become normal. We no longer notice the silence disappearing. We no longer notice conversations interrupted every few minutes. We no longer notice how uncomfortable stillness has become. And maybe that's why this conversation matters so much. Because once you understand the psychology behind these behaviors, you begin seeing your habits differently. You begin noticing the invisible loops, the automatic impulses, the unconscious checks. And with awareness comes choice. The choice to reclaim your attention. The choice to be present. The choice to decide what truly deserves your focus. So the next time you instinctively reach for your phone, pause for a moment and ask yourself one simple question. Did I consciously choose this, or was I conditioned to do it? Because that single question might change the way you interact with technology forever. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more videos exploring psychology, technology, human behavior, and the hidden systems shaping modern life, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. And before you leave, check your screen time today. The answer might surprise you more than anything else in this video.